Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Networks on Sunday, February 24th, 2019. This is episode 1569. Before you enjoy, don't forget, the last few weeks of our survey, we do this once a year to get to know you better. twit.to/survey19. I thank you in advance. Now, on with the show. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by DigitalOcean, the simplest cloud platform for developers and teams. Deploy, manage, and scale cloud applications faster and more efficiently with DigitalOcean. Sign up today and receive a free $100 credit at do.co/twit. And by LastPass, the #1 most preferred password manager. Secure every password-protected entry point to your business and reduce the threat of breach at lastpass.com/twit. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Oh, yeah, time to talk tech. That could be computers, the internet, home theater. That could be smartphones, smartwatches. There'll be a lot of smartphone talk today because Mobile World Congress has just kicked off in Barcelona, Spain. Could be augmented reality, but talking about that too. Virtual reality. Even a little real reality. 8888 Ask Leo is my phone number, 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada, so call me if you're outside that area. And I know we have listeners all over the world thanks to the amazing power of the internet. You can still call. Just use Skype out or something like that. 8888 Ask Leo. Website. Very important. You got to have a website, right? Tech Guy Labs. What kind of tech guy would I be without a website? TechGuyLabs.com. And that's free. There's no sign up, no subscription. I don't charge you. It's just wide open there because I kind of believe in the free and open internet. I like it. I don't want to collect information about you. I just want you to use it as a resource. And we put all the show contents up there. There's text for every question and answer, but there's links, so you don't have to write any links down. There's even audio and video after the fact. We put up there. TechGuyLabs.com. Please take advantage of that. You can even leave comments, so you don't need to yell at me on the radio. You can even leave comments, and I would be glad to get them because that makes it more valuable. So let's see. We will talk later in the show about Mobile World Congress. Samsung on Wednesday announced a new folding phone for $1,980, which was breathtaking until today when Huawei, the Chinese phone manufacturer, announced the Mate X folding phone. It folds the other way. So Samsung's is like a book. You open it up to see the big screen. The Huawei Mate 10, or is it X? Oh, Apple screwed that up. I think it's Mate X. Folds the other way. So you see half the screen on either side, and then you open it, and it becomes wide again. And we thought we were stunned by Samsung's decision to charge $1,980. Let me just say $2,000 for the Galaxy phone. But you know what? Huawei beat them. At least that's one way you can beat them. They're going to charge $2,800 for their folding phone. Wow. The thing that's unknown, and I would not recommend buying either of these at this point, because the thing that's unknown is what happens to that screen if you keep opening and closing, opening and closing. Even in the demonstrator model that Huawei had on stage, there was a perceptible kind of wrinkle on the screen when you opened it up, like from where it had been bent. They're using plastic screens, basically. They're like, I don't know, Mylar, like just a plastic film that can bend. I don't know. I think that the problem right now for the phone industry is that no one's, the new phone sales have plummeted. And because everybody's got a phone and they don't really need a new one. There's nothing compelling. And so this is what remember the TV manufacturers did this. And they tried a lot of stuff nobody wanted, like 3D. And they've given up on that. And so the phone company's going to do the same thing. The companies that build these smartphones are going to do all sorts of weird and wacky things. The Galaxy Fold which will be out later this spring, has 6 cameras. You thought Apple was going crazy with 2, right? 6. The Galaxy S10 has 3 on the back. The Galaxy Fold will have 2 on the front, 3 in the middle, 1 on the back. 2, 1, 3. Yeah, 6. I had to count. I ran out of fingers. 6 is better than 5. 6 is better than 2, right? It has, isn't it? Maybe not. Funnily, the Google Pixel, which only has 1, well, 2 cameras, 1 in the front, 1 in the back. What is, what? Come on, Google, underachieving here. Actually, it's the best camera in the bunch. So multiple camera lenses don't make a big difference. Also today, I've been here for a while because I got up a little early. For me, 9 a.m. is early to watch the Microsoft press conference, at which they announced HoloLens 2. Now, I want to point out this is really intended for businesses at this point. So this isn't, I think people imagine that this is augmented reality, where you'd put on glasses and you see the real world, but you also see superimposed on the real world amazing stuff. And, I don't know what amazing stuff would be to you. In the case of Microsoft's HoloLens, it would be things like a schematic of the motor you're about to repair and instructions on how to repair it. So you can work on this motor or even practice. Surgeons could practice open heart surgery in the operating room in 3D as if they're doing it through the glasses so that they're rehearse it in effect. Microsoft showed set designers looking at the stage for their play and then imagining what that set might look like, adjusting it with their fingers because this all has gesture control. It actually has some very smart, sophisticated cameras, sensors. It can, if you put your hands in front of you, it'll see your hand, know their hands, add the hands to the scene. The camera can, it has what they call a time of flight sensor that gives it a 3D model of the world in front of it. It also, so you can use gestures for everything or voice if you want, but gestures. I was very impressed. Microsoft, this is its second generation. The first HoloLens was announced 4 years ago. So, they've had 4 years to improve it. And I think they've started to make a fairly compelling case for businesses. Now, I know you and I as consumers, what we're thinking is, and Microsoft showed this last time, not this time, they showed Minecraft, right? A building game, which is on a table, your Minecraft castle and stuff, and you're building it with your fingers, and you can look inside and see people inside. Or they had spiders coming out of the wall. That's pretty creepy, that you would shoot. They showed games with this. They didn't really want to talk about that this time. But that's okay, because this is actually a sensible way to do this, because the HoloLens is $3,500, or you can rent it for $125 a month with a 3-year commitment, which ends up being actually even a little more than $3,500. But the idea is, consumers aren't going to spend that kind of money. But businesses might well. It has video conferencing, a little creepy. You take a 2D picture of yourself, it ingests the picture and creates a 3D avatar of you that does not look, have you ever done this, with Bitmoji or something? They're kind of creepy. It's creepy, but I guess you'd get over that. And now you're having video conferences with people. You can walk around, you can move around, you can show them things. And I could see how businesses might jump on this, especially businesses that nowadays are globally all over, distributed everywhere. And so they aren't all in meetings together. This makes it more like a real in-person meeting. But the reason I think it's good is let the businesses spend $3,500 because they have a use case and they can make money. And this will help advance the technology, bring the prices down. And maybe 4 years from now, HoloLens 3 will be something more affordable, something you and I can get. And I could see a lot of use for this in real life. I've said this before. Augmented reality will happen when it's something the size of eyeglasses that kind of looks like eyeglasses that you can wear around. You don't look like a weird robot machine walking around, but just a normal person wearing eyeglasses. But on the glass, nobody can tell, is being superimposed information about your world. That restaurant's 4 stars. That one's 2 stars. That person is 5 stars. That person is no stars. That kind of thing. I think there's a future there. I'm intrigued by all of that. 8888 Ask Leo. I could talk more about the new Galaxy phones. I've ordered one March 8th. It'll come. We'll have a review at that time. But I can answer some questions about that if you're curious. And there are other phones that were announced at Mobile World Congress. We'll talk about that and answer all your tech questions. All right. I think I've given Kim Schaffer enough time to warm up the phones. We'll check in with her and your calls next. She got it. Watch her. She got it. Kim Schaffer, our phone angel. So am I James Brown in this scenario and you make me want to shout? Is that it? Is that how it works?
I don't know. I don't know what's going through Big Pee-wee's head.
Oh, I'm not sure I want to know. So, Kim, hello.
Hi.
What do we have on the docket for today? By the way, I want to mention the Oscars. Yeah, we're going to get out of here early because the red carpet's already started. It
did.
That's crazy.
I mean, that's
ABC does like 25 hours of programming.
I think 1 o'clock is the red carpet.
Crazy.
Yep.
So I will let you go at 1 if you want to go home and watch the red carpet.
No, we have a full hour after that.
Oh, yeah.
We can't leave till 2.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I just want to mention, somebody in the chat room pointed out, if you're listening live, that for some reason our website, Tech Guy Labs, is down. The website encountered unexpected error. So our crack engineering team, it's back. I spoke too soon. Boy, they're fast. They got to work on it and fixed it. What did they do? Oh, they kicked it.
They kicked it.
Yeah, they kicked it. They just banged on it a little bit. It's all better now. So, Kim, who should I start with here?
Let's go line 3, Andy in La Habra.
Andy in La Habra. Thank you, Kim. Hello, Andy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, thank you. Hey, I'm calling about computers for day trading stocks, something I've thought I'd like to give a shot.
Oh, fun.
I just wanted, I've heard all this stuff about how fun it can be and how you can make money. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a little shot. And if I blow up my account with a little bit of money, I'll be done. I'm not going to lose time.
Yeah, it's none of my business. But if I were going to do such a thing, I would set aside a fixed amount, just as you do in Vegas, and say, hey, if I lose it all, then I guess I'm done.
Yes, exactly.
Because there's always that temptation, I'm so close. If I could just, I know how to do it now. If I could just do this, everything will be better. So what often happens with day traders, day trading is the process of full-time sitting during the times the stock market's open, sitting there and buying and selling stocks, and quickly. There's a great book, before you get involved in all this, that I would read from the guy who did Moneyball. He actually comes from a trading background. His first book was all about the stock market. And he has written a book called, his name is Michael Lewis. He's written a book about the stock market and in a way about day trading. It's actually about automated computer trading that's really, really an eye-opener. And it's called Flash Boys. Flash Boys. And it's called, the technical term for this is high-frequency trading. The reason I bring this up is because this stuff is done, is very specialized, is so important that you, high-frequency trading, that you are fast, that you know what the changes are in the market are fast enough. They actually built a fiber optic line from Chicago to New York with no twists, no turns, to give them milliseconds faster connection than the existing connection, because those milliseconds for these very fast trading systems were enough to make money. Milliseconds were enough to make money. That means they knew milliseconds ahead of time when a stock was going up or down, and they could act on it before the New York Stock Exchange knew. They were getting connected to the Chicago Board of Trade. It's really interesting. It's one of the reasons we're getting these flash crashes He talks about this in the book as well. Flash crashes are when computer program trading, because no human can act that fast. So it's all the computer's in charge at that point. Goes out of control, and you have these weird, unexplained stock market crashes. And we've had several. So the reason I bring that up is that's your competition. Day traders obviously do not work quite as fast as high-frequency trading programs. But they use technical analysis and other tools. Most of the day traders I know have a very powerful computer, obviously a high-speed internet connection, because they're running programs. They're running technical analysis tools that they're running to give them an edge. The whole idea is the edge. A number of day traders I know have their own proprietary software that they've created. They've noticed over the years there's certain things you look for, and then you'll know ahead of time. Because the whole trick is knowing ahead of time what the market's going to do. If you knew that the market would go down in an hour, you could short everything. If you knew it would go up in an hour, you could buy everything, and you'd make money. And that's the whole premise behind day trading. You often sell and buy, in minutes apart. So you need a powerful computer. You're going to need software. I'll leave that up to you. And most day traders I know have multiple screens. In fact, you can look online and see monitor mounts designed for 2, oh, that's silly, 6, maybe 8 screens. And the reason you do that, in fact, anytime you look at a big brokerage operation, you'll see they have all those screens. That's basically what you're duplicating, because you want to watch the Dow in real time. By the way, you pay for that. That's not free. Most of the stock prices are 15 minutes delayed. That's the free ones. The real time ones are expensive. It's kind of, so it ends up being, this is a big elaborate process. Any laptop can do basic day trading. So maybe that's the way to get your feet wet. Otherwise, you're talking fairly big investment. But any good laptop could do, day trading. I presume you have programs that you use or plan on using to help you do the day trading. You want to make sure it'll work on the platform you're getting. It's really easy to lose money in day trading because you often get heavily leveraged, right? You buy stuff on margin, and then if you get called, you can lose more than you put in. But you're an adult. You get to choose this. I know I've talked to a lot of people who want to do this. It's not unusual. Not recently. This was all the rage. So your homework is to read Flash Boys first, which is, by the way, a great read. Michael Lewis is amazing. So read Flash Boys first, and then Liar's Poker was his first book, all about the Wall Street boom in 1989. And that was a great read. And Moneyball was about how the Oakland A's used stats and quants to figure out what kind of team to build, and they won the World Series because of it. And this newest one, well, actually, it's not his newest one. He has newer ones, but the Flash Boys is really fascinating. That came out in 2014. 8888 Ask Leo. You want to talk about cars? We're going to do that. We're going to get Sam Abuelsamid on the line, talk about autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles, and all the tech in cars. Coming up next as we continue. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, and that magic music means it's car time. Sam Abuelsamid is here, senior researcher at Navigant Research, but senior analyst, but he is also a car guy, deep down, through and through. He 10W40 in his veins, and we are always thrilled to have the car guy on. Hi, Sam.
How are you doing today, Leo?
We're going to talk electrics, but before we get into charging, which is your topic of the day, I've got a question that I've always wondered, too, from the Peanut Gallery. Maverick56 in our chat room says, why is it electric cars are so darn ugly?
That's there's nothing inherent about electric cars that makes them ugly, and they're not all ugly. I mean,
no, I think the new Teslas are very good. Yeah, the Model S and the Model 3 are beautiful.
Porsche Taycan and the Kia, the Hyundai Kona EV that's sitting in my driveway right now is also it's a great looking little car, great looking little crossover. Actually,
I guess in the early days, car companies wanted to distinguish their hybrids and their electrics from their mainstream products. Plus, you got to make them smaller, right? You don't want
you don't have to. I mean, you can make big EVs. I mean, last week we talked about Rivian.
Now.
They're making full-size pickup trucks and SUVs. So, I think some of the early EVs they tended to want to make them look more distinctive. They're trying to appeal to early adopters that were interested in something that kind of showed off their green credentials.
Right.
And so that's why some of the cars like the first generation Nissan Leaf. The early Priuses, were
like an alien.
A little odd. Yeah, they were a little odd looking.
So that's put off a lot of buyers, but now they're starting to look more traditional, and you can get sedans, you can get crossovers, you can get trucks even. I think people are coming to electric. I am a huge fan. Of course, we're in California where electrics make a lot of sense. We have a lot of sunshine. I have solar panels, but I love my Tesla. But I thought it'd be fun to kind of get a primer in. The biggest issue for EVs for most people is charging and the range. How do I make sure there's no gas? There's a gas station every corner, but where do I charge this thing?
Well, one of the advantages, one of the things that companies have done with their modern EVs is in the infotainment system, and they're almost all have navigation systems as standard equipment, and they typically have some. One of the default choices in there, if you go to look for points of interest, is usually charging stations.
Yeah, so in fact, my Tesla, when I plan a trip, I could say, make sure to include the charging stations. It knows, okay, you're going to get to 40% at this point. You want to stop here for 20 minutes, top off, that kind of thing. And it does a pretty good job of that.
Right. And, when you look at the navigation map, it'll show you a circle on there usually that shows, here's your driving radius with your current battery charge. So here's what you've got available. And they try to make it as easy and convenient as possible. It's still, it's still more challenging than finding a gas station, but that's changing. The companies are putting in more and more public charging stations all the time, and that's going to help. Part of the up until now, it's been kind of the classic chicken and egg problem where it costs a lot of money to put in charging stations, especially high power charging stations. And if you don't have a lot of demand for them, it's going to be hard to make money on that business. And so now, as we're starting to get a whole bunch of new EVs coming to the marketplace, especially higher performance ones with larger batteries, we're getting more and more DC fast chargers being deployed by companies like Electrify America, ChargePoint, EVgo. And so I just wanted to touch a little bit on, kind of the difference between charging at home and those DC fast chargers. And of course, the Tesla superchargers are the ones that people probably know the best. So, you've got, with electricity, we have basically two kinds of electricity. We have direct current, which is just a constant flow of electrons. And that's what you get out of a battery. And what's what you usually have in most low powered electric devices like your phone and other devices. And then you have alternating current. And, with direct current, it's cheaper to do because you don't need to have the power electronics to create that sine wave in the current flow. But it works great for lower power devices. But when you get to higher power devices like the motors that propel a car, alternating current is a lot more efficient. And so you have this problem of batteries are always going to be direct current. You've got motors that are alternating current. And so you have in the car, you have the power electronics that switch back and forth between DC and AC. And most, are your home charging equipment, whether you plug into just a standard 120 volt outlet in your garage, or if you have a level, what we call a level 2 charger, which is a 240 volt charger, those are all AC. And so they go through the power electronics, gets converted to DC and charges the battery. The high power charging units like we have out in the road now, like the stuff from the superchargers, the Electrify America, all those are all DC fast chargers, and they operate at 480 volts and much higher currents as well. And so superchargers and the Tesla superchargers are about 120 kilowatts, 100 to 120 kilowatts charging capacity. And the Electrify America chargers are going up as high as 350 kilowatts. Wow. So you can get an 80% charge in about 15 minutes.
More kilowatts means faster charging.
Yeah, that's the electrical power that's going in. So the total amount of power that's going into the battery or that comes out, from your motor when you're driving the thing. So that's helping. And then the other issue, of course, is the different connectors. Tesla unfortunately decided that they wanted to be like Apple, and they created their own proprietary charging connector when they launched the Model S, and they've used that proprietary connector on the Model X and the 3. The rest of most
you
of the
can
rest
use
of
an adapter though to charge a Tesla at these other charging stations, right?
Yeah, and the car does come with an adapter. You can just plug it into the connector on the car, and then you plug in the other one. So if there's not a supercharger nearby, you can go to any charging station and plug it in, and it's not a problem. And then there's what we call the SAE 1772 connector. That's the standard connector that everybody in North America uses, aside from Tesla, for 120 and 240 volt charging.
But now these new high power chargers are using a new system called Is it CCS?
Yeah, CCS basically is an extension of that standard SAE connector. So it adds 2 more big pins to the connector, so that for the higher power DC charging, and right now everybody except Tesla and unfortunately Nissan is going to that for their high power.
So if you were getting a new one, you'd probably want to look for one that supports the CCS.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
And then in Europe they have a different version of that, because in Europe here for AC we have single phase AC, and I'm not going to go into all the details, but in Europe they have 3-phase AC at home, and so they have a little bit different connector, but it's based on the same technology.
Another good question from the chat room: where's all this power come from? I mean, I know it when I'm charging at home, that's coming off my bill. That's why we got solar panels, to reduce that cost, because it can be expensive to charge these cars up. Where does it come from though when I go to a public station? I know I pay $1 a minute or whatever.
They're usually hooked up to the public grid, to the public utility grid.
Okay.
And it varies. I mean, they increasingly, as they deploy these, especially the 350 kilowatt chargers, they're also adding battery packs to those, because there's when you're charging at 350 kilowatts, you've got a lot of draw on the grid. So what they do is they have these local battery packs that give you the high power charge, and then it recharges that at a slower rate from the grid.
Main thing I would say, this sounds all very complicated, it's very simple. Once you buy an electric car, you know what you can do and you'll see where you can go to charge it. And actually, it turns out there's enough chargers now already that you don't have to worry about running out. And
for the most part, no. And especially with these longer range EVs now, it's not. When the first generation Leaf came out,
soon it's going to be all over thanks to Electrify America. But we'll save that for another day. Sam Abuelsamid is the car guy here. He's a senior analyst at Navigant Research. Thank you, Sam. Leo Laporte,
thank you, Leo.
The tech guy. See, I love the story of Electrify America for people who don't know. When Audi got in trouble
talk about that next week.
For Dieselgate, they were forced. This is part of the settlement. Mm-hmm. And what did you say? $2 billion they're going to spend?
Yeah, $2 billion over 4 years is what they're spending
to put these chargers in. And I think I read somewhere their plan is to have a charger within 143 miles of every person in the country.
Or 140 miles along every major. Transcontinental route, so along all the highways.
Got it. That makes more sense, actually.
Yeah. And then around major urban areas, they'll be a lot closer together.
Right.
So it's very similar to the approach that Tesla takes with the supercharger network.
When I got my Tesla 2.5 years ago, it made sense to get a Tesla because of the supercharger network. Although we've rarely used it, but the thing that pushed me over the top is when they added a supercharger in Petaluma. And I knew we can get to Tahoe. There were superchargers on the way there. That's the longest drive that we typically take. And if I wanted to go to L.A., there are superchargers along the way. So that was kind of the thing that put me over the top with a Tesla. But now I don't think there's any reason not to get an electric car.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's definitely much more practical. And when you've got 200, anything over 200 miles of range, nominal range, then it works fine.
Yeah. Is it more expensive than gas, though?
It depends on where you live and where the power is coming from. So, like, in California, for example, they have some of the highest electricity rates in the country. And at peak times, it can cost you 34, as much as 40 cents a kilowatt hour, I think, in some locations. And so it can get very expensive.
Yeah, that's nutty.
But the average across the country is about just under 12 cents a kilowatt hour, and at that rate, it's much cheaper.
And typically, you set it to do it overnight at the lowest rate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is if you're going to use DC fast charging on a regular basis, you definitely want to sign up for a plan, a subscription plan, because if you're doing it a la carte, then they usually charge you like a $4 or $5 connection fee, and then they charge you by the minute. And that adds up really fast.
Yes. So we have a NEMA 50, the RV in the wall. That's why I charge the Tesla, because it has an adapter for that. If I got the Taycan or we got the Nero, that would work with that, right?
Yeah, and what
that's
I
a
would
typical home
is,
plug.
Yeah, what I would suggest is getting there's a bunch of different level 2 home chargers that you can buy. They're about anywhere from $400 to $600.
You have to have enough amps left over.
Yeah, and you can get one of those, like an Airbiquity or not Airbiquity. I can't remember.
I might do that. Yeah.
And you can plug it right into that outlet.
Oh.
So you can get.
So they use a battery to build up the juice.
No. It just draws directly from your.
It's
your
just an inverter.
Circuit. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, well, actually, it's not even an inverter. It basically just passes through, and it just manages the charging to the car. The inverter is actually in the car.
So it's better to do it that way than just right off the grid?
Well, you are taking it right off the grid.
Yeah.
So like if you,
but this thing just controls it somehow.
Yeah. So it manages when the charge gets full. So it communicates with the car. I think probably you probably got a Tesla cord that plugs into that outlet, that NEMA outlet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's probably a big block somewhere along that cord.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's communicating with the car. So when the battery is getting full, it'll communicate to that and say, okay, turn off the power.
Got it.
And that's basically what these wall units are.
I see.
It's just a charger.
So it's good to have that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you don't already have the outlet, you can tie it into one of your home circuits. Have an electrician come in.
Sam, that's what we did. We got an electrician out. Sam, thanks.
All right.
Talk to you later.
Next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. We'll talk more with Sam next week about electric cars, because I'm sure there's some interest if you've thought about buying one, especially if you're interested in technology, because most of these electric cars have a lot of technology in them, besides just the fact that they run on electricity. The computers and autopilot and all of that stuff. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. We go on with the show with Ron in Laguna Niguel. Hi, Ron.
Hi.
Thanks for hanging on.
I have a Dell desktop computer. It's a Windows 7. I bought it in 2011. Now I know that it's going to be obsolete in January 2020. But I just do banking, and I go on the internet, YouTube, and stuff like that, and buy stuff on the internet. But I can't use that computer anymore after 2020.
No, not at all. This is analogous. What we're talking about is Microsoft's end of life for its operating system versions. And you may remember we talked a lot about it when XP hit its end of life. And so there's this kind of staged kind of end of life process that Microsoft goes through. And the reason they do this is they don't want to support an operating system forever. And by support, I mean put out fixes, updates, and most important for you, security patches. So Windows 7 is going to enter its kind of end-of-life phase January 2020. So that means that after that time, it'll still work. But if you are just a normal user, which most of us are, extended support means we won't get any more security patches. Now, that happened to Windows XP a few years ago. A lot of people still use XP, but you use it at your own risk. It's not that it will no longer work, but there's always a chance that something bad will come out and Microsoft won't fix it. It has been my experience with XP that if there's something really bad, Microsoft, in fact, does push out fixes. There often are ways around it, and who knows, maybe by 2020, Microsoft will change its mind, because even to this day, more people use Windows 7 than use Windows 10. So there's a lot of us out there using Windows 7 who like Windows 7 who saw no reason to upgrade. I think Microsoft wants everybody to use most recent version, just as Apple does and Google does. And, you know, there's for any company that makes operating systems, it's better if everybody's on the same operating system. Developers write software, they can count on the platform being a certain way. It's easier to keep it secure. The good news is Windows 7 has been around for an awfully long time, and it's been patched heavily, as you well know. It's pretty darn secure at this point. So while it's likely that there'll be other problems with it, there won't be as many as there would be with, say, Windows 10 or anything following Windows 10. Businesses will be allowed to extend their contracts at a fairly hefty price through, I think, 2022.
What I'm trying to say is, if I do banking on it, someone won't be able to see what I'm doing. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. Okay, so these security flaws, that's the nature of the security flaws, is that they can let bad guys into your system. Perhaps they could watch your banking. Probably not. But I'll give you a scenario. It turns out that in February of next year, somebody discovers that, oh, look, when I put a picture on a web page that's specially formatted, Windows tries to draw that picture, and I can hack the system as a result and get access to whatever's being typed on the keyboard. That would be bad for you, right? Because then your online banking login would show up. Typically, these hacks don't happen. So in that case, you would have to be targeted, right? Because if I found that flaw and I distributed it to 20 million people, what am I going to watch the keyboards of 20 million people? No. So you would be vulnerable if a government agency decided it wanted to spy on you, or you made an enemy in the hacker community, but you wouldn't be kind of generally vulnerable.
Will that Windows Security Essentials still work?
Yep.
I have that.
That will probably get updated. It did on XP. Truthfully, there will be options for you in January. There'll be a number of things you could do. You could, of course, put another version, another operating system on there, or update your Windows, because Windows 10 is pretty good, and it's not that expensive. It's under $100 to update it. You could put Linux on there. That's free. You could start doing some things to isolate your banking session, like a virtual machine, so that it would be a secure session. Or you could use a non-Windows browser, and that would probably help. If Microsoft stops updating Edge and you use Chrome, Google, for instance, on Windows XP, Google kept, and Firefox too, kept their versions of their browsers up to date for several years after Microsoft stopped. So if that was the strong advice on XP, stop using Internet Explorer, because that's not getting updated, but you can still use Chrome. Now, finally, Google and Firefox both gave up on their browsers on XP, so there's no up-to-date browser on XP, but that would give you a window of a couple more years, and that would be more secure, certainly, because a lot of the vulnerabilities come from browsing. If you call me in January and ask me, I would say, yeah, you should upgrade for the best safety, or better yet, this is another option: go out and get a $300 Chromebook, which is known.
Will a Chromebook work with my laser printer and 3-in-1? And
yeah, probably. If your laser printer supports something called Google Cloud Print, which all modern printers support.
Speakers from my old computer.
Well, but you don't need speakers if you're banking.
Well, I want to look at YouTube and stuff like that.
Well, I'm saying you look at YouTube on your old Windows 7 machine, do everything else, but the stuff that you really want to make sure is secure, you could do on a cheap Chromebook. That's another option. I mean, there are lots of ways around this. Ultimately, it's a good idea to update to the latest operating system. You're just going to get most of the security benefits and all of that. On the as I mentioned, Windows 7, by virtue of its age, is actually very secure. And that's another point to bring up. When new operating systems come out, they often start less secure because they're untested, untried. But Windows 10 now has been out for almost 5 years, so it's pretty solid as well. So. No, you don't have to give it up. Your computer will continue to work. You'll probably be secure. You'll be more secure if you use Chrome.
Yeah, I use Chrome.
Yeah, and there'll be other ways to kind of, lock down a Windows 7 system. 40% of Windows users are still using Windows 7. So, there is even a possibility Microsoft itself will change the end date. This has happened before too. So I wouldn't worry about it till it happens.
Okay.
That now you know more than you really ever cared to about the issues. You're right to ask the question. And I think when Microsoft says, "Oh, we're going to end extended support for Windows 7," people will go, "Oh no, it's over." But there are ways and ways. I have friends, smart friends, who still use Windows XP. I try to talk them out of it, just as I would try to talk you out of using Windows 7. But honestly, Windows 7 is great. I understand. Windows 10 is pretty much the same as Windows 7. They went through a bad period with Windows 8 where they started to try to emulate a tablet. And people on desktops said, "I don't want a tablet. I want a desktop. I've got a desktop. What are you doing, Microsoft?" And they backed down on that. So those tablet features are hidden away a little bit more in Windows 10. I like Windows 10. And I think, honestly, upgrading to Windows 10 would probably be the most sensible, even the most cost-effective thing to do. But we can cross that bridge when we come to it. Still got 10 months, 11 months. You don't have to worry about it too much. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More calls right after this. Oh, what am I saying? Now's the time to do my ad for DigitalOcean. I'm a big DigitalOcean fan. I know you know that. do.co/twit. What is DigitalOcean? I am always challenged to describe this. It's kind of like web hosting. In fact, it could be web hosting, but it's not just websites. It's hosting for web apps. It's hosting for content. It's hosting for a lot of different things. And it is so easy and fast to set up and so affordable to run that a lot of people, startups use it. People learning programming, learning web programming use it. That's how I use it. For hobbyists, it's great. It's very affordable. But also that next great startup could also use DigitalOcean. DigitalOcean makes it easy to run production applications. It's a scalable compute platform. You can add storage, security, monitoring. Let me show you. It's the easiest thing for me to explain it if I can just show you. This is my DigitalOcean account. You create and you can create multiple servers. They call them droplets. So I'm going to create a droplet. There's other things you can do too. And once you go to do.co/twit, you'll find out all the things you can do. When I create a droplet, this is what's so cool. The first time I created a website, it took a week to get it what they call provision, set up and ready to run. This isn't going to take a week. You choose a distribution, Ubuntu, FreeBSD, Fedora, Debian, or CentOS, or a container distribution, CoreOS, or Fedora Atomic, or Rancher OS. They support Kubernetes. They support databases, just added MongoDB. They support Docker, of course. I like to show the one-click apps because this is the easiest way. If you want to set up a LAMP stack, in other words, Linux with a web server, Apache, with PHP on it. It's easy. You press a button. You want your own GitHub called GitLab? You could do that. Let's say you're a Python programmer and you want the Django framework. So I'm going to choose Django. I'm going to choose the tier, and it goes all the way up to 192 gigs of RAM, 32 CPUs. Almost 4 terabytes of storage on enterprise-grade SSDs, 12 terabytes a month of transfer, or all the way down, and that's where I start, for $5 a month, for a gigabyte of RAM, 1 CPU, 25 gigs of storage, and a terabyte of bandwidth. That's actually pretty competent. So that's the one I'm going to choose. I'm going to choose that. There's also CPU optimized droplets. I'm just showing the basics. You can enable backups for $1 a month. You know how I feel about backups. I always click that. Choose the server, and there's servers all over, 12 global data centers. I always choose San Francisco, too. That's the closest to me, but there's plenty you can choose from. There's other features, including SSH logins, which I always like to do because that means I'm more secure. I can log in. Yeah, you get a terminal with SSH. In fact, you get a public IP address. Now, this is the fun part. I'm going to press the Create button. I've set all the parameters. In less than a minute, DigitalOcean will set up a server, public server, running Django and Apache and on Linux and everything, ready for me to run, ready for me to start programming to create my brand new, super duper $1 million idea app. 150,000 businesses, including some of the world's fastest growing startups, rely on DigitalOcean to remove infrastructure friction and deliver industry-leading price performance. 4 nines uptime with an SLA. Oh, it's done, by the way. I can even log in. Shall I log in? I'll just to prove that I actually have a server now that I can access, run, start programming for. Full DNS management, round-the-clock tech support. Look, you got to try this. do.co/twit. You'll get a free $100 credit just for signing up. There it is. It's logging in. And I am now on my public server. I can start my Django application or whatever else you want. do.co/twit. Get a free $100 credit. DigitalOcean. Trusted by businesses, loved by developers. Why, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. It's time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. That's anywhere in the U.S. and Canada, toll free. You can still call it, but from outside that area, I don't think you could just dial those numbers on your phone, though. You have to use Skype out or some other voice over the internet, kind of program that will let you call 800 number. It's toll free, so it shouldn't cost you anything. 8888 Ask Leo. Put all the answers and all the questions together on the website. It's free as well, techguylabs.com. techguylabs.com. Let's get back to the phones. And Doug in Fountain Valley, California is next. Hello, Doug.
Hey, Leo. Thanks for taking the call.
Well, thank you for calling.
I heard about a month ago you mentioned that Samsung, they have an LTE Chromebook, and I went out and I bought one.
Oh, good. I hope you like it.
I love it.
Oh, good.
I love it.
Okay.
And what I've been able to do is install my SonicWall client on there, and then install the RDP app, both from the Chrome store.
That's neat. So you can do remote access to your Windows machine.
Better than that, remote access into my business server.
Nice. Very nice.
Exactly. Yeah, awesome. And the one downside of the Chromebook is that, the 12-inch screen.
Right.
And as far as I know, this Samsung is the only Chromebook with LTE.
No, I think there are others. But you got the the Samsung Chromebook Plus, I guess, right?
Correct.
And the reason that's so small a screen is because it's very portable. I mean, it's thin. And so they kind of favored portability over anything else. And it kind of makes sense that the portability and LTE go hand in hand. So you have internet access wherever you go. But for a while, there weren't a whole lot of Chromebooks on LTE. Now there's quite a few. I know the Samsung Plus because I've owned several. In fact, my daughter uses it for college, so I know it pretty well. But there are others. Dell now has one. HP has a larger Chromebook, a little larger, 14-inch, but that's 4G, not LTE. Let's see who else is doing. Sometimes another way to figure this out is to go to your carrier, because a lot of carriers, like if you go to your Verizon store, for instance, will know what who's making Chromebooks that'll work with their system. Part of this comes down to the chipsets they're using, and now that the chipsets for LTE are widely available, the Acer Chromebook has a number of them. Google's own Pixelbook, if you want state of the art at a state of the art price, now supports LTE, I believe. So there's more and more coming all the time. Which one is bigger? I don't know. That's another. How big a screen do you want?
I saw some of the Chromebooks. They get upwards, I think, of 15 inches. I think is maybe where they.
Yeah, it's funny because I think it's Asus makes a 15-inch Chromebook, but it's their cheap Chromebook, not their best Chromebook, and so it does not offer LTE. I don't know if they're 15s with LTE. Let me just briefly browse around. The Lenovo Yoga will. Dell Inspiron, that's a 14. Acer has a 13. Yeah, it looks like your Samsung maybe it could get a little bigger. You can get an inch bigger, but that's maybe not enough to make a big difference.
The question I wanted to ask you is, I just discovered last night how to cast the entire Chromebook to my Sony TV.
Big screen, yeah, isn't that cool?
Extremely, and in fact, I'm watching you on the
nice
TV right now. I'd like to know, how would you cast that like onto the computer monitor? And this is the situation. I have a home office and then a regular office offsite.
Oh, okay. So what you'd like to do is when you get to your office, cast it to the full screen computer monitor.
Actually, I'm using this for a backup at my home office because the server is at our business office.
So the trick...
And so if the internet, if it goes down at the home, which has happened from time to time, slow,
be a good backup.
I bypass that and go through the LTE.
So all you need to do is buy a $35 Chromecast unit. I'm presuming your monitor has HDMI in.
It does have HDMI.
Yeah. So the Chromecast is an HDMI device. Now, it's a little bit of a pain because most monitors don't have multiple HDMI ports. Your television does, but your monitor, you'd have to unplug the cable, plug in the Chromecast, and cast that way. But that, I think, would work. I've never tried it, but I don't see any reason why that would not work.
Okay, and then I can be right next. Even on the 55-inch TV, the distance I'm sitting for, it's hard to use QuickBooks. And
oh, yeah. Yeah, because TVs really aren't designed for high-resolution work, frankly. And so they're like, you know, HD screens, and you're sitting 10 feet away. It's very hard to do what you want to do. But yeah, a monitor would work. Really, I guess your TV is cast enabled, as many are, so it doesn't need a Chromecast. But in the old days, that's how you would get Chromecast working on a TV, is you'd buy a little Chromecast device, which Google sells. The 4K ones are a little more expensive, about $80. The HD versions, which is probably all you'd need, are $35, and they just plug into the HDMI port. Then you cast to it. Actually, this is going to be interesting because it has
monitor.
To, yeah, exactly.
If I was to lose internet connectivity at the house.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So it's in effect, it's like a monitor cable, except it's not. It's a wireless device.
You know, another interesting thing, when I log in through an RDP session on the computer in a normal way, to log out of that session or to close the session, you would go Control-Alt-End, not Control-Alt-Delete.
Oh, but it's not available in the Chromebook.
Amen, you got it.
So you just unplug, say bye-bye. Yeah, that is always going to be an issue with stuff that expects Windows key bindings, and that's interesting. So you can't do Control-Alt-End.
Right, and it leaves the session open in the background.
That's weird. How could you?
Exactly.
Is there an alternate way of getting out of a session besides that particular key combination?
Not that I'm aware of. It's Control-Alt-End is all I...
Yeah, so RDP, which is Windows Remote Desktop Solution, expects you to have a Windows machine. Even though they make a Chrome extension for it, I guess.
They do?
Yeah.
They do.
So here's what I would do. Write to the developers of the Chrome extension. Is it Microsoft?
That's a good question. I don't know.
It might be a third party, because RDP is a standard, and anybody can write an RDP client and say, look, you need to enable this. They must, I mean, because anybody using it on a Chromebook is going to have the same problem. And all they have to do is give you a button to push to end the session or something like that.
I'm on the RDP app right now. Is there some place that I could touch or find out, like, who produced this?
No, you'll have to go in. You're doing it on Chrome?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to go in Chrome. In the settings, there is information about extensions, and you'll have to go look at installed extensions, and one of them will be that RDP client, and then that's where it will say.
I just did about, and
about might work too. Okay.
Yeah, and it says Microsoft Corporation.
Okay, so it's from Microsoft. Yeah, so you can in the Google Chrome extensions store, I think there's a way to leave a comment for the developer, kind of like a review. I would leave a comment saying, guys, you really need a way to exit this session, and on a Chromebook there is no Control-Alt-End. How do we do that? And it would be easy enough for them to put a button on there or map an alternate keystroke, or they may respond back, and I hope they do. Some good developers do pay attention to those reviews and comments and do respond back. And I would hope they would respond back and say, oh, Yeah. So on a Chromebook, it's whatever. Escape. And then you'd go, oh, nice. Should have documented that. I'm glad it's working for you. I really like those Samsung Chromebook Pluses. I think they're small. They're fairly well made. They're very inexpensive. And they're a great alternate computer for people who don't need full Windows or full Mac. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Take a little time out and have more of your calls coming up right after this. I like to boogie. I like to boogie woogie. I am Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. Back to the calls we go. Line 2, Trishelle in North Carolina. Hi, Trishelle.
Hi, Leo. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Oh, thank you for calling.
I'm a little nervous.
Oh, it's just you and me. Don't be nervous. It's just us.
No. I just want to make one comment before my question.
Sure.
Which I think because I'm not one of your geniuses, but I just want to tell you I've been listening to your show now for I believe about 5 years, and I love excellence. I love being around excellence, and I don't watch TV, and I only listen to radio. And I mean this 100%. Your genius, along with how authentic you are, and your audience, I don't believe, even though it's over the radio, I've ever been around as much genius in one place.
Oh, we're all just a bunch of geeks.
Oh, no. It blows
thanks,
my mind.
Michelle. That's really kind. Thank you. I blush.
I take notes every week. But this is the first time I ever had a question. And this is what I want to do is I need to make a living, 4 or 5 children, and myself. And I want to become a YouTuber. And I don't know when it was, and I don't know if it was a figment of my imagination, but I thought that I heard on one of your broadcasts live that there's a camera that you recommend because it's like having a TV studio in your living room.
Yes. You didn't imagine it.
Oh, my gosh, I'm so glad. Oh, my gosh, I'm so glad.
I don't know. I should caution you that 99% of the people who stream on YouTube never make a penny. But on the other hand, those people who become beloved on YouTube can make a lot of money. And that number is going up, including millions a year. But there's a certain... I wish I knew what the formula was. If I did, I would do it. But I don't. In fact, all of our shows are on YouTube, and, we don't come anywhere near making even thousands of dollars a month on YouTube. So.
Oh, yeah, and then I know this, but you know what? I'm sort of between like a rock and a hard shell because I'm low-sighted. I don't watch TV because of that. My ears are very good. I have a creative mind. My mind is stronger than my body. I'm going to make a couple of suggestions.
I'll answer the question about the camera, but
thank you.
I think the key with YouTube is the same as the key with podcasting. I know a little bit about that. I'm a little more successful in podcasting, which is you need to find a niche, a unique place that you naturally fill. It can't be something that you say, I'm going to become an expert on collectibles, on collecting Pez dispensers. I'm going to become an expert and I'm going to do a podcast. It won't be as good, or I'm going to do a YouTube video. It won't be as good as the person who is like crazy, nutty, passionate about it. So figure out what you're crazy, nutty, passionate about. And that's the best topic for you to do.
And that's exactly it, because I do have a lot of belief in myself. I used to be a pediatric nurse. I want the channel to be for children.
Perfect.
I got 5 children, I'm really well liked by animals and children, at least.
Well, you know what? There's plenty. I don't know how many animals there are on YouTube, but there's plenty of children. And YouTube's desperate for decent content for children.
Wholesome,
yeah.
decent goodness.
So there may be an opportunity there for you. So let me give you the camera that you were looking for.
Okay.
You can get it. It's called Mevo, MEVO. And you can get it at getmevo.com. It's not cheap. It's a few $100s, and it needs an internet connection. But what it does, you can control it with an iPhone or an iPad. And what it does is it has a very high-quality 4K video image that you don't want to send 4K to YouTube Live, but you can then use that high-resolution image to move around inside the camera, to zoom in on you, to zoom out, to show what you're doing, what you're working on, all kinds of things like that. And it's getmevo.com. It will stream to YouTube Live, but it also works with Facebook Live, with Twitter's Periscope, Twitter itself, Livestream, which is a live streaming service, Vimeo, which is a video service, and it now supports something called RTMP, which is a real-time media player. That means there's lots of places you can send that stream. So the advantage of this is if you have an iPhone or an iPad, it might even work with Android now, I should check, and you have this camera and you have internet access, you can stream to YouTube, and you can stream for free. And maybe, I don't know, if it's, let's say, reading kids' stories or whatever, you could totally do that. Making money on YouTube, as I said, can be challenging. The other thing I was going to mention is you might consider audio podcasts because, A, it's much simpler. You don't have to clean the house. You don't have to put on a nice gown. You don't have to put on makeup. You don't have to do anything. You just talk. And it's very easy these days to produce audio podcasts and reach a fairly large audience. My favorite platform for this is called Anchor, like a boat anchor, ANCHOR.FM. They were in the news recently because Spotify just bought them. When that happened, I read that 1/3 of all new podcasts are created on Anchor. And here's why. It's free. It's easy to make the podcast. You do it on your phone or computer or anything that has a microphone. It's probably easiest to do it on the phone. They have an Anchor app. You can add sound effects. You can add music. You could take calls. You could do a whole lot of stuff. And then they store it and turn it into a podcast for free. So there's no cost to you at all. It's kind of like YouTube for podcasts. And I think with the advent of Spotify, now that Spotify owns it, you're going to have a great way to spread the word about your podcast on the Spotify platform. So maybe start with just audio. It's a lot easier. Anchor.fm. I'm a fan. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Joe, Greenville, South Carolina. Hello, Joe. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Yes, sir, Leo. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. First time caller, long time listener.
I love it. Well, welcome.
I had a question. My dad, he travels about 4 or 5 times a year. They've got a couple of timeshares, and he loves his Echo. I guess I can say that.
Yeah, you can say Echo. Just don't say the A word.
Okay.
we don't want to trigger anybody's Echo device to go off, including mine.
Yeah, he's 79.
Yeah.
And he's limited on his vision, and it's wonderful.
Oh yeah, it's voice.
And he loves
huge.
It. He loves it. He does his audio books on it and all that.
Yep. Stuff. If you subscribe to Audible, Echo is of course created by Amazon, which owns Audible. I do that too. I'll say, you know what, my command is Echo, read to me. And it'll pick up the book I'm listening to right where I left off. It's awesome.
Okay.
It's like my mama.
What I had a question with is he's got a regular Echo Generation 1.
Yeah, that tube, the black tube.
Echo, and he's got an Echo Dot Generation 2. And they've taken the Dot a couple of times to them on vacation and stuff, but they can't get it to log in. And my stepmom, she knows how to do it. She has an iPhone and logs into the app and can't get it to do it. And what I'm thinking is that where they have the privacy in terms of use when you have to click on, when you go on a hotspot, I'm thinking that it can't log in because you never clicked that to get it to go to the internet.
Yes, you nailed it. We call that a captive portal, and it's broken, but that's how most of these open Wi-Fi access points work. Unfortunately, and you know this, you go to a hotel or a coffee shop and you open, you choose in the Wi-Fi chooser, you choose, Starbucks Wi-Fi. And then the next thing that happens, and sometimes it takes a minute, is a browser will pop up with a login screen, and you have to agree to terms of service and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes you have to pay, sometimes it's free, but that's called the captive portal. It's a terrible, kludgy hack of a solution, and it does screw up things like an Amazon Dot, an Echo Dot, because, how are you going to do that on a Dot?
That's right.
So you need a way of joining the Wi-Fi. There's a couple of ways you could do this, and now I don't know how tech savvy your folks are.
No, they're not. They need to be. They can do the A-Word app on the iPhone, but that's about as far as they can go.
The one solution, but it is a little bit geeky, is to bring a travel router with you. So
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So if you had a travel router that was designed to handle captive portals, and many are, you could set it up from a computer or a phone, get it working, get it logged into the captive portal, and then have the Dot join that network. The advantage of that, by the way, is that network's always going to have the same name and password, so you could even set it up for them. And then when they get to the hotel, all they have to do is log in and get the Wi-Fi, the travel router to work. What I do, and this would work perfectly well, is I get a travel router from a website called Tiny Hardware Firewall. And these guys are designed for exactly that. So the one I use looks like a USB key. You plug it into the USB. Do they have a laptop they bring with them or no?
They have a tablet that they bring.
Just a tablet.
She has a laptop, so I could tell her to bring that.
Yeah, it'd be a lot easier with a laptop. You need something you can. Let me think if you could do this with a phone. You could. Come to think of it, you could do it with a phone. So what they would do is they would plug in this travel router to the wall, which powers it up. You wait a minute for it to boot up, and the lights change and stuff. And then the travel router is a website that you can log into. You'd have to set this up for them ahead of time. You give them a bookmark in their browser. It can be on her phone, by the way. So her phone, she will join their personal Wi-Fi, which is this little tiny hardware firewall. And it'll have its own name. You can make it their name so they know, oh, yeah, it's me. It'll have a password because you want to protect it. Now, it won't have it. What it won't have yet is internet access. If they're at a hotel that has Ethernet, you can get one that has an Ethernet port. That makes it really easy. But if they're at a hotel with Wi-Fi, they will then tell the router, okay, now we have to log into the internet. And what will happen is the router will pass that login page through to her phone. So then she'll have a chance to sign the agreement, press the buttons, enter the password, whatever it is that captive portal requires. That will unlock internet access for the tiny hardware firewall. And at that point, their Dot can join the Wi-Fi network created by the hardware firewall, which will always have the same name, always have the same password because they're bringing it with them. And it will use the internet provided by the hotel or the coffee shop or whatever, and everything else should work from that point on. I know that's crazy complicated, but that's, I think, the way to do it.
No, it's not really, but
well, I think you had the idea. You had the idea right off the top with the travel router. So that's exactly the same thing. And you could do, Netgear sells travel routers, anything that will handle, and this is the thing you want to check, that will handle a captive portal. For a travel router to work, it has to, and then create a Wi-Fi network that's a private Wi-Fi network that your Dot can sit on. That'll work. Okay. And it would work with other devices that require internet as well, like if you wanted to, because, a lot of things like the Chromecast, you all have to be on the same Wi-Fi network. Well, this way you could be on your own personal in-room network that's getting its internet from the hotel.
Okay. And what was that one that you've got?
Tiny hardware firewall.
Okay.
And that's just one. I mean, as I said, I believe Netgear has a travel router, and I'm pretty sure that handles captive portals. They call it the Trek travel router. So anything like that. These tiny hardware firewalls are inexpensive, and they're designed to be used with a VPN. So they're also designed to provide secure service, which is kind of nice. Some open Wi-Fi access spots are not so safe. And they make them in a variety of sizes and styles. As I mentioned, I have the littlest one, which is just a USB key. But it doesn't have to plug into a computer. It can just plug into a USB charger. You can actually have it sitting on the wall plug if you want. And it becomes a Wi-Fi access point wherever you are. That's the one the Dot will join. That's the one their laptop will join. Most of them will handle at least 5 devices. You want to check that, too. Make sure it'll handle enough devices. But a phone, tablet, and your Dot, that's probably sufficient. I agree with you. I think the Echo is amazing technology for people, older people. We gave an Echo to my wife's parents in their 70s. They play Elvis on it all day long.
Oh yeah, they love it. He can tell me music I've never heard of.
Oh yeah, because they just ask for it by name. It's awesome. It's like for them, this is the future. This is, and I guess for us too, it's pretty amazing. Yep. In fact, her mom asked me to make a CD of an artist. She says he's on Echo. He's on the A word. and I don't think she understood that I would have to buy the disc to make it for her, but I did because she wanted it, and I think that's awesome. It's music she found on the Echo.
Oh yes,
isn't that awesome? Yeah.
Yep.
Well, this is going to take a little geekage on your part, but once you get them set up, maybe write some instructions down. They could probably do it. It's always going to be the same every time.
Okay. Well, thank you, Leo. You've been wonderful.
My pleasure. Thank you for calling. Yeah, I love those kinds of problems. You have to kind of think about it and say, what can we do here to make this work? I've actually been wondering myself. Now, I just solved that for me, so I can take a Dot with me. Next time I travel. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Well, and that's why we say Echo. I can't help you if you renamed your trigger word to Echo. But I think 90% of Echo users use the A word, so that's what we try to avoid. Mine is tied to computer, which was a terrible idea. But I just thought it'd be kind of fun to go, computer? Hawaii Cop, what am I supposed to call it then? He says, don't say Echo. Well, sorry. We don't say the A word. I tell all my hosts, don't say the A word. Or Alyosha, as Andy calls it. Is there a reason you use the E word instead of the A word as your trigger? Well, the real solution is obvious, but I don't know why no one's implemented it, which is to let you record your own trigger word. Frankly, 2 syllables is too short. It's too easy to... 3 syllables is too short. I'll talk about, when we come back, I'll talk a little bit about that. By the way, the number of babies born being named the A word has plummeted. Nobody would dare name a child Alexa anymore. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. You noticed in our last call I had to jump through hoops not to say the A word. I'm not talking bad words. I'm talking Alexa, the trigger word for the Amazon Echo. And then there's somebody in the chat room who says, well, don't say Echo. That's what I use for my trigger word. There's 3 words you can use for an Amazon voice-activated assistant. How about that? One is computer. That's a terrible one. You'll get triggered all the time. One is Echo. Maybe that's not so bad. And one is, Alexa. Sometimes I'll call it Alyosha. And I think there ought to be a law, to be honest with you, because remember during the NFL season, every time you'd watch a game, maybe it was just one Monday Night Football, whatever, there would be a brief ad, a blipfert, a 5-second ad that would just say, hey, Shlomo, S-I-R-I, I'll call her Shlomo. Hey, Shlomo, Who was the NFL running back statistics holder for 19, whatever? It asked a football question, a statistics question, and invariably would trigger my Apple HomePod. Shlomo would get all excited and start talking, and for 30 or 40 seconds spew out football facts. That really, if we didn't have a completely neutered FCC, that'd be something the old FCC might have jumped on and said, look, advertisers may not trigger voice assistants intentionally. Accidentally, fine. There was a famous Burger King ad where it asked the Google device about a Whopper, I think. And what they had done, and this is even more reprehensible, is Google gets its information when you ask it a factual question, often gets it from Wikipedia. And what they'd done is they, right before the ad, edited Wikipedia, which you can do. It's unethical, but you could do it, to basically include an ad for the Whopper in its article. And then they triggered it on people's Google homes saying, okay, I need a name for the G word. Okay, Gulio. What's a Whopper? And people's Google homes all over the country were triggered and read this bogus Wikipedia entry. Wikipedia was mad. Google was mad. They should have been fined, but they weren't. They weren't, unfortunately. So there you have it. That's this. So I do try not to say those words. Occasionally they slip up and do, because in normal conversation you're going to call it the A word, right? I got my Amazon Alyosha, and so I try not to, and I tell all my other hosts, try not to say those words. So we say, hey Shlomo, and hey Alyosha, and hey Gulio. Instead of saying the real words, which sounds nutty. There is a simple solution. And it baffles me that nobody's done this. And as soon as somebody does, it's just going to change the world. Let us create our own trigger words. It's not impossible. My old Moto X phone, way back when, 5 years ago, if you wanted to do hey galugaboo, you could say your own trigger word, which, frankly, the longer it is, the better, the less likely it is to be triggered by just normal conversations. So I made mine, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Doesn't come up a lot in conversation. It was kind of fitting. And when I said, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, it would go bloop, and I could talk to it. It worked great. How come my Moto X can do it 5 years ago, and Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and Apple haven't figured out how to do it now? Oh, Leo, it would add 3 cents to the manufacturing cost. We can't do that. Oh, please. That's the solution. And eventually they'll do it, right? You know it's going to happen. Meanwhile, we have to kind of dance around the name, and I apologize. Aloysius. Hey, Aloysius. But now you know why I was careful. And the thing is, you can't win, because if you call it, you have to call it Amazon Voice Services, I guess, which doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. Oh, the trials of a technology radio broadcaster. Bill in La Jolla, California. Hi, Bill. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Bill? Hello, Bill. I scared him away. Okay, Bill.
Oh, hello.
Oh, it worked.
Yes.
Yeah, I know what your trigger word is now. Hi, Bill. Welcome. I'm sorry to keep you on hold for so long. It's not your fault. I know, and I apologize. Thanks for your patience.
I'm so happy you do, and you do it well.
Oh, well, there you go. What can I do for you this fine day?
Google has kind of been driving me nuts. My wife and phones, I have a Samsung S8, and she has a Moto Z Droid. And for years, we've had a happy arrangement where we share the Google Calendar, and her entries go on mine and mine go on hers. And everything was fine until a couple of months ago. Through whatever circumstances, my Gmail address started getting really honked up, and weird things started happening. So I went and tried to delete it. And finally, after a few days, they said, last chance to keep your Gmail address. And I realized that all my calendar entries were...
Well, it's good they gave you a last chance. Holy cow.
So anyway, I said, yes, keep it. Since then, we share each other's calendar entries, but for some weird reason, Google sends my contacts to her contacts. And it's even at the extent now where the command on Google, find my phone, worked for 2 years. Now it rings her phone.
Yeah, you've got your accounts mixed up somehow. So first thing to do is to go, are you using you told me you're using an Android phone. First thing to do is to make sure you're using your account, not her account. Find My Phone is exactly tied to the Google account that, the user's logged in as, which means somehow she is the account holder on your phone. You don't want that. So make sure you both have different accounts. You have different accounts, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But when I say Find My Phone, it says, do you want to find the Samsung phone or my Tab 4?
Oh, at some point, maybe because you were getting rid of your Google account, your stuff got moved to her account.
That could be.
Yeah. So
but not my identity of my device.
No, it won't change a whole lot. What I would suggest doing is, so go into the settings on your phone. There's an account section. Actually, not accounts. You don't want to go to accounts. There's a Google section. And at the very top of the Google section, at least on my phones, and of course it varies depending on the manufacturer and the version, but somewhere in that Google account setting, there is a direct account setting. And what you want to do is log out or use another account. And you may have actually done that at some point. I'm wondering if perhaps you did it, you forgot you did it, or in the process, because once you're getting rid of your Google account, the next step would be to go through a bunch of maneuvers to keep things working. So this is
my settings now.
Yeah, it should. Yeah, go ahead. It's in the settings. There's a Google, even on Samsung phones and Droids, there's a Google section. Again, you're using an older version of Android. This may not match up exactly, but what you want to get to is where it shows your name and face. And if it's showing your name and face, and then you tap it and you see it's your account with your email address, then I'm baffled. But I'm going to almost certainly guess that it's not, that it's showing her email address and probably her face. You'll see right under that there is a use another account entry. And that's what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to use your account. Somehow you got the accounts mixed up on the phone. Perhaps you even tied the accounts together. You might have to create a new Google account, but you can get back to all of that. It looks to me, sounds to me like you're sharing accounts. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Our show today brought to you by LastPass. Can't forget these great guys at LastPass and gals. In fact, I'm going to be hosting their cocktail party at the RSA convention coming up in a couple of weeks. LastPass makes the password manager I use and everyone should use. In fact, what's the number? Something like 16.5 million people use LastPass, 43,000 businesses, because it protects you by protecting your most valuable asset, your passwords. We use LastPass Enterprise here in the office because we want employees to be, obviously, they have to be able to access our bank accounts, our web hosting, our servers, our data, and all that stuff, but I don't want to give them the password. So with LastPass, they don't have access to it. And if an employee leaves, I can eliminate their access. We have lots of policies, too, over 100 different policies, including actionable security reports. You could set master password requirements, how long they are, how complex they are. You can require two-factor. We do, and it supports all forms of two-factor, including YubiKey. In fact, they even have their own LastPass Authenticator app, which sends push notifications. That's a really great way to secure those accounts. And if you're an Active Directory user, LastPass allows you to log on with your Microsoft Active Directory credentials. That's convenience. LastPass is built on a zero-knowledge security model. Data is encrypted and decrypted only at the device level. Even LastPass doesn't have access to your passwords. Only you do. I trust it so much I put my social security number in there, my passport, my driver's license. It's my secure storage. Should be yours too, especially if you're in business. There's LastPass Teams for teams of 50 or fewer, LastPass Premium for personal use, LastPass Families for your family, and of course, the LastPass we use, LastPass Enterprise. Join 43,000 businesses and find the best password solution for your team at LastPass.com/twit. LastPass.com/twit. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Yeah, it's tech guy time. That nerd on the radio, yeah, I'm sorry. But for the next hour, we'll be talking computers, the internet, home theater. Let me make a pitch. This is the stuff changing your life. It's also the toy store. It's fun. You know, we're talking smartphones, smart watches, augmented reality visors. Microsoft, this morning, I was up early. Microsoft's in Spain for MWC. It used to be called the Mobile World Congress. A lot of smartphones there. And Microsoft decided to take that opportunity to have a big press conference to announce HoloLens 2. This is their augmented reality helmet. And Microsoft's easily the leader in this. You might have heard other companies trying such things. You remember Google Glass, which was kind of a flop. Although Google Glass found second life in industrial applications. And that's where Microsoft's really focusing its attentions. When they first announced HoloLens 4 years ago, they showed off gaming, you know, shooting aliens coming through the wall and stuff like that. They didn't do that this time. They were really more intent on showing you how it could be used on the factory floor, by designers. Yeah, you could be used in schools, but they're kind of expensive. The HoloLens 2, which was just announced, $3,500 each. Although Microsoft did do something kind of interesting. They also announced a rental program. It requires a 1 or 3 year commitment, so I guess really it should be a leasing program. And with the 3 year commitment, it's only $125 a month, only. It's about twice that if you get the 1 year commitment. So it's really, I think, a very expensive device. That's why they're not pushing the consumer or even the education applications. It's for a big company. One of the things they showed was teleconferencing. You know, you've probably done this if you work in a business. You've probably done it at home if you've used FaceTime or Skype and video to talk to somebody. And in big businesses, they often have whole conference rooms devoted to teleconferencing with multi-$1,000 setups by Cisco and others, and there's a camera there, and there's a screen, and it's kind of like you're all in the same meeting, except you know somebody's on a camera. And they showed how to do it with a HoloLens, which you put on your head. They said it's as comfortable as a hat, which would be, believe it or not, an improvement over the previous HoloLens. It's as comfortable as a hat. You put it on your head. Your eyes are covered by what looked like sunglasses, except that the brow of the sunglasses is not just a thin bar like your regular sunglasses. It's this massive computer with what looks like a suction cup behind it that gloms onto your forehead. The back is a big battery because it's untethered. There's no wires. You can walk around with it. In fact, if augmented reality is going to work, you're going to want to wear it everywhere. So maybe I should explain that augmented reality, unlike virtual reality, you've seen that where you put the visor on and you're in the world. You can't see what's around you. You can only see what's going on in the game. Augmented reality is more like a heads-up display. So you're walking around wearing these sunglasses. You see everything around you. You won't walk into walls. You see it, chairs, furniture. But you might see projected into that chair your boss, or on the furniture a model of the house your architect's designing, or that kind of thing. So it projects computer graphics onto the real world. That's augmented reality. Or, you know, maybe you've seen this on your iPad or iPhone or your Google device or Android device, where you saw the ads maybe on the Super Bowl that Google showed of Childish Gambino singing and dancing in your world using a Pixel phone, right? You hold it up and there he is, or Iron Man flying around your house. That kind of thing. That's augmented reality. And Microsoft really is the leader here. There's a lot of toys. Apple and Google have toys, but Microsoft's got a product that I think business will be interested in for teleconferencing alone. You know, the idea of being in a meeting and you can walk around, you can show people stuff, you can send them images, they can touch and walk around. It's kind of interesting. And while it's slower probably than we imagine, this is typical of technology. Everything's going to take longer than you expect and be here before you know it, which sounds paradoxical, and it is. But it always seems to take a little longer than, we expect it will. And yet, one day you wake up and it's here. And I think that's the case with augmented reality. It took 4 years for Microsoft to get to this second stage, which is still fairly primitive. It's going to be another 5 to 10 years before it gets to the next stage. And it might be 20 years before it's what it needs to be, which is just some sunglasses that you wear that have in the sunglasses, information about the world around you. And maybe even in the earpieces, you've got somebody like Amazon's Echo talking to you, and you can talk back to them. Except it's really smarter than Echo. It's more like Scarlett Johansson. You see that movie, Her? It's more like that, where it's like a real person in your earpiece. Yeah, maybe that's 30 years off, or 40. It's hard to say. It could happen next year, too. 88, that's what we talk about. That's what this show is about. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number if you want to talk with me. Greg in Los Angeles. Hi, Greg.
How you doing, Leo?
I am great. Welcome. Thanks for hanging on.
Yeah, I just listened. I've been watching you since Tech TV days. So.
Thank you.
Anyways, got an issue. I have a Samsung Smart TV, and it appears that I cannot stream or I can't mirror my phone, but yet I can use the Smart Hub to actually use Google to do searches on the internet, and it'll search the internet. So it looks like it's talking to the internet, but yet I can't get Netflix or Amazon Prime or anything like that to work.
Is that TV? Right now, is that TV supposed to be what they call cast enabled?
It has mirror. It has mirroring capability.
Oh, okay. So that's a little different. Yeah. So there are a lot of technologies that have been around for a long time to get your contents of your mobile device onto the TV. Microsoft's had products. The underlying technology for many of them is something called, catchily called DLNA. Apple has its what is it, Airstream or something. Actually, that'd be a good name for it. It's not Airstream, but anyway. So
my TV actually has a Smart Hub.
Yeah, so but what I'm saying is, and Microsoft has Mirrorcast. The problem is, you need something that's compatible with Smart Hub. So you need something that the TV can see. You both need to be on the same Wi-Fi network. I think you understand that. Yeah. And you need. Let me look and see what. Samsung says what protocol, this is why I was talking about protocols, what protocols need to be supported on your mobile device. So you need to be talking the same language. AirPlay is what Apple calls it.
My TV, I can use Netflix directly on my TV.
Yeah, that just means it's a smart TV with an internet connection. It does not automatically mean you can cast from your phone to it.
Well, right, but we used to be able to do both, and we can't do either right now.
Same TV, same phone?
Same phone, same TV. Okay. I can't cast to it, nor can I use the Smart Hub, the Netflix on the Smart Hub, and access it.
Oh, so you can no longer get online with your TV. No, you said you can surf, though.
Yeah, I can surf with my TV. I can not with my phone, on the TV, I can surf. And when I said, it says check the internet, it's looking at the internet connection.
But you can't launch Netflix on your TV?
Right. And actually right now, the Smart Hub, I tried updating it, and it says, it just continually says Smart Hub is trying to update.
There you go. So how old is that TV?
It's probably like 5 years old.
Yeah. Samsung's notorious for not keeping these up to date. It may well be that it is now incompatible. It's too old. I hate to say this is ridiculous. I know people who have a Samsung refrigerator with an internet browser on it, and they haven't updated it, so it can't be used. So
I went online and tried to find out. I did the different things online.
Yeah.
And somebody said that Samsung told them to go in and reset the country.
Yep.
And then when you go back to USA, it works.
That may well be. Sure.
But I can't find where to do that on my TV. Maybe it's a later version where you can go access the country, but I can't find that.
Yeah.
Nowhere.
It sounds like you can browse, so that means you are connected to the internet, and yet you're not getting updates, which is a little concerning. That may be a incorrect country setting. TV must have reset its settings. I think what you need to do is kind of first start by downloading the TV's manual if you don't still have it and go through it. And you might need to call to Samsung to figure out how to reset it. Actually, the wrong country code could very well be your problem. I don't know enough about that TV to really help you here. Maybe somebody in the chat room or somebody listening to the show will call in. Sorry about that. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Time to take a break. I'll talk a little more about the issue with smart, and I put that in quotes, smart TVs when we come back. Stay here. Oh, see, what Big Pee Wee, our musical director, does not know. So when he plays music like this, I can't sit still. And what he does not know is that I am not sitting in a traditional radio broadcaster chair. I'm sitting on a giant inflated rubber ball. And when I start to dance around, well, frankly, I start to get some air. So, Big Pee Wee, if you don't want me to crash, stop playing such great music. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Little Stevie. Oh, he's good. That's good. No, you keep playing that. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. Smart TVs are dumb. That's the conclusion I come to from our last call. It's the problem. What I really want if I buy a TV, and you can't get it, but I'd like, is just the best state-of-the-art panel, whether it's LCD or OLED. I happen to be an OLED fan. That's what I've got. And the best chips in that thing for upscaling and for HDR and all that stuff, decoding the signal. But I don't want any of this smart stuff. Every TV now comes with kind of a poor version of Netflix built into it. A browser. What do you need a browser in a TV for? And it's an out-of-date browser. That's the problem, because Samsung and others, they put all this stuff in there. It's poorly written to begin with. They use it as a vehicle for a couple of things. I'll tell you why they do it, but it's not up to date. It's not as good as an external box. You buy a Roku box or an Apple TV. You buy one of the NVIDIA Shields, which is Android TV. You're going to get a much better set-top box that is updated on a regular basis, where the Netflix app really works, and it's a good app as opposed to 3 years ago Netflix app. The reason that Samsung, Sony, LG, everybody, Vizio, Tickle, everybody puts the smart TVs in there, I guess one reason is because then you can say, oh, it's a smart TV. But really, I think the main reason is so they can show you ads, because a lot of these smart TVs, you use that interface, there's ads in there. That makes me crazy. I spend a lot of money. I don't want to see ads. Or, and this is worse and more nefarious, and you should really check, you read your, the fine print on your agreement. They're using microphones, hidden microphones built into the TV, and software built into the TV as part of the smart platform to monitor what you're watching, what you're doing, how long. Basically, it's like a Nielsen people meter. It's a ratings box. Now Nielsen, of course, won't put one in there unless they tell you ahead of time. You have to sign agreements and so forth. But the TV company, they put them in there, and they sell that information to the highest bidder. More TVs than you might think have microphones in them. You should check. Why would your TV have a microphone? You can't talk to it. It has a microphone so it can hear what you're doing, what you're watching. And make note of that. When you got up and left the room, who knows what it's paying attention to. The CEO of Vizio recently told my friend Nilay Patel on the Vergecast they use data tracking to subsidize the cost of television. That's why you get a TV. You can buy a TV for $200 or $300 now, big screen. Well, it doesn't cost them $200 or $300. They make a little more money on spying on you, surveillance. So my desire, I would love to have a dumb TV. Give me a dumb TV, and I'll provide the software to get on the internet and up-to-date Netflix and all that stuff. But our last caller, this is the problem. You know, your smart TV isn't that smart. Anyway, enough of that. I get off my high horse here and take a call. Brian in Orange County. Hello, Brian. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo. Thanks for taking my call. I recently came across some free Vivotech IP cameras.
Yeah.
And I got them working. I got a cheap, I think, a TrimNet PoE hub. So I got them running. And my question is, I can't stream to my Apple, to Safari, or to Chrome, or to Firefox.
What can you stream to? What can you stream to?
I can pull them up on a Windows Explorer or
interesting,
the Edge, but the other browsers all say plugin not supported.
Ah, did you ever install an Edge plugin for the Vivotech? No,
I think there is. No, not for that.
But you installed Vivotech software on your computer.
Yeah. The Vivotech software found the camera.
That's what it is. Yeah. So, and it's routing it through to Edge. But, frankly, if Chrome and Firefox don't support it, it could be because the folks at Vivotech never made a version that worked with them, or it could be it requires a technology that Chrome and Firefox don't support. Both companies, Mozilla, which makes Firefox, and Google, which makes Chrome, have recently deprecated, that is, dumped plugin platforms that were they can deemed either old-fashioned or insecure, like NPAPI. And it may be that that's exactly the kind of plugin technology Vivotech uses. There are a couple of things to be aware of when you put a camera in that you got for free, or that it's from a company that maybe it comes out of China, maybe isn't up to date.
Right.
Those cameras often aren't secure. I don't know anything about Vivotech, but in fact, it looks like Vivotech's a good company. I've never heard of them, but I'm looking at their website, and it looks like they're a good company. It's probable that they just haven't updated their software lately, or it uses NPAPI, or it does something that for one reason or another isn't supported. The thing, though, that I always worry about with any Internet of Things device, which these cameras are, is that bad guys could use them, either spy on you through the camera or use them as a gateway to break into your network. So make sure it's being kept up to date. Always check the updates. And I guess you're just going to have to stick with Edge until they make a compatible plugin. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Well, the chat room to the rescue once again. Marsworm in our chat room has found a Vivotech technical support video on YouTube that says how to view camera on Chrome or Firefox. So I guess there is a way to do it, and we'll put a link to that in the show notes at techguylabs.com. So once again, chat room to the rescue. If you want to join those cats in the back of the class, they're raising a ruckus, but sometimes they have all the right answers, too. That's irc.twit.tv. I call them Team Tech Guy. They're my brain. If I can't remember something, I just say, hey, chat room, and they'll know. They'll always know. 8888 Ask Leo. Actually, they've been talking about the idea of smart TVs, and somebody pointed out, you don't have to put a smart TV online. One of the things that makes a TV smart is that it has an internet connection, right? But you don't have to set that up. You don't have to plug in an Ethernet cable or give it the Wi-Fi password. You can leave it offline, use Roku, Apple TV, something you trust, as the internet connection. Connect the internet to that and pipe it into your TV. That'll make it a dumb TV. You still have all the, smart TV cruft lying around, but at least it can't get online to upload information about you. I would periodically log in just to make sure you've got the latest firmware updates. Often there are updates for TVs. And then get it off the internet again. That's a great solution. How to dumb down your smart TV. Richard in Fullerton, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Richard.
Hi, Ray. Hi, Leo.
Hi. Welcome.
On your show the other day, you said the industry was going to stop making Blu-ray DVDs.
Not the industry, but Samsung. They've announced they're not going to do Blu-ray players anymore, not DVDs, players. And I think Blu-ray discs will be around. They're not very. By the way, not all movies are put out on Blu-ray disc. In fact, it's a small fraction of the total movies released are put out on Blu-ray. So, in a way, they've kind of started to fade that out. But it sounds like you're a videophile. You like those Blu-ray discs.
Well, yes, I do, because they just made the picture look like what you see in the movies. But my question is, you said the other day that streaming was popular with everybody, but the quality of the picture isn't there. Am I right?
Technically, you're absolutely right. Streaming, even with a lot of bandwidth, is going to be more compressed than what you get on a Blu-ray. By the way, Blu-ray UHDs are compressed quite a bit. They're just not quite as heavily compressed as streaming because you have more bandwidth on a UHD Blu-ray player. But
so my question is, why would I want to buy a high-end TV?
Oh no, they look good. I have a Blu-ray player. I rarely watch Blu-ray discs. Almost always will stream from Netflix, Amazon. They all do 4K UHD in HDR, depending on the content. My Apple TV, and they look fantastic on my OLED display, my LG OLED display. The trade-off is convenience, of course. If you don't mind having a library of discs on the wall, buying discs for movies you watch once or twice and then never watch again, then that's fine. Knock yourself out. Every time I say this, though, I get calls from people who say, oh, no, physical media will never die. Well, look at your floppy disk collection or your zip disk collection and tell me that physical media will never die. When's the last time you bought a CD? Streaming music now is by far the largest category of music. iTunes, easily the #1 music seller in the world. They don't sell CDs. I would say that I should get some numbers. I'm sure there are numbers somewhere if I can find them. That the vast majority, many, many more hours are spent watching streaming content than physical disc content. If you're a videophile, by all means, if you want to keep getting Blu-rays, do. I think you've probably noticed how hard it is to get Blu-rays of some movies because almost everybody's moving to streaming. And there is definitely a difference, theoretically. But I have to tell you, maybe you need to go to a store and watch a stream of, Netflix HDR content, something like Stranger Things. Or I watched the other day, we watched Roma because it's one of the movies nominated for an Academy Award. By the way, I think easily should win it as Best Picture. It's black and white, but it's HDR black and white. And that's how Netflix is streaming it. It was produced by Netflix. It's available on Netflix for free if you're a Netflix subscriber. And I told my wife, okay, we're going to watch this in the den on the OLED TV with the surround sound. And it was a fantastic experience. It's not color, but the black and white was rich. The tonal quality was amazing. It was a very beautiful movie. And I think I was watching it, frankly, in conditions, even though it was streaming, far better than it would have been in a theater. In fact, it barely showed in theaters. They only showed it a few times in theaters just so they could qualify for the Oscars. This is if it wins tonight on the Academy Awards, this will be a watershed moment. The first movie made for streaming to win a Best Motion Picture Oscar. That's a big deal. I think that's what's going to happen tonight. I really do. And it's just part of what's happening. We're moving into this world where it's convenient. It's much more convenient to let Apple or Disney or Google or somebody store all your movies than it is to have a bunch of physical discs you have to schlep around. Physical media, the trend is very clear. And every time I say this, people get mad at me. And of course, there are lots of people still have vinyl discs. I'm not gonna knock you. You please be my guest, but the trend is clear. That's why Netflix has just spent $8 billion, literally last year, $8 billion to make new content for Netflix streaming. They pretty much abandoned their DVD rental business. That's why Apple is the #1 music store in the world. Streaming has won, and that means physical media is on its way out. So while I don't argue with you, it looks better, and Scott Wilkinson, our home theater geek, always says, oh, well, of course it looks better. But, and you know, I'll be honest, I do buy a Blu-ray. I'll probably buy a Blu-ray, UHD, HDR Blu-ray of Roma if they put one out, because it deserves movies that are classics. I like to own them. I have Lawrence of Arabia on DVD too. There's no HDR version of it, but do I even have a UHD version? I'm not sure. But the movies I really love, I'm going to get on Blu-ray. But I think that's changing pretty rapidly. And I don't see, what you have to look at is what young people do. Remember, young people move around more than we do. They don't want to schlep up boxes of CDs or DVDs with them. I'm not saying Netflix doesn't rent DVDs and Blu-rays, but it's got to be a tiny fraction of their business and shrinking all the time. They tried to spin it off, and the outrage was too great. So they said, all right, we're not going to do that. But it's got to be a fraction of their business. So I don't disagree with you. You could say that about everything. It's always better to visit Paris than it is to watch a movie about Paris. But not everybody has the luxury of visiting Paris. And sometimes it's just more convenient to watch a documentary than it is to go there. Doesn't mean it's better. It's just more convenient. And streaming has gotten really good. That's the other thing. Maybe you haven't looked at a 4K UHD stream lately. But it really, if you have enough bandwidth, and you need 50 megabits per second download speed. But if you have enough bandwidth, Netflix says 25, but honestly, I think you probably need 50. If you have enough bandwidth, and you have a good TV, and you have a good decoder, I think it's pretty good. It's pretty good. 8888 Ask Leo. I am Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Big thanks to our musical director today. In case I run out of time, I want to thank Big Pee-wee, Damien, and of course, Kim Schaffer, our phone angel, for answering the calls. Always appreciate it. One more segment. I'll take as many calls as I can as we wrap things up right after this. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yeah, 8888 Ask Leo. Jose on the line. Oh, we're just up the road a piece from Modesto, California. Hello, Jose.
Oh, hi, Leo.
Well, I think you're on the road.
Yes.
Welcome. What can I do for you?
I just have a question about very quick. Following Steve Gibson, Trust No One,
yes.
Saved,
yes.
To create a container and then upload to, let's say, Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive.
Oh, I know what you're saying here. You're asking a really important question. When you store data on Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive, those companies have access to your data. It's not encrypted. And I understand that that's a concern for some people. Law enforcement can get access to it. A rogue employee could get access to it. I mean, I trust Google, Microsoft, and Dropbox. I don't think they're routinely spying on me. But at the same time, people who use those services should be aware that they are, even if you have to log in and they say we're encrypted and it's encrypted in flight, they have the keys. And the reason they have to have the keys is for things like deduplication. A lot of the features that people expect with cloud storage require that the cloud storage company have access to the data. So in almost every case, it's not what you mentioned Steve Gibson, he calls it trust no one. A trust no one model means only you would have access to that data. So you mentioned VeraCrypt, which is a encryption, very nice open source free encryption tool. And that is a great choice. There are lots of ways. Anything you use to encrypt the data, as long as it uses strong encryption, would be secure to store on Dropbox. In fact, there's even solutions specifically for this purpose. Steve calls it, well, he used to call it P, pre-egress encryption, but we convinced him to call it PI, which is pre-internet encryption. The idea being that you encrypt before you upload. And that means it would be trust no one. Because even if Dropbox can look at your data, if it's encrypted when it's sitting there, well, then you don't have to worry about it. There are tools that are designed to automate that kind of encryption. Stuff like Cryptomator, which will encrypt before you upload. It does PI, pre-internet encryption, before you upload. Understand that when you do that, though, there are some limitations because Dropbox can't see what's inside that. It can't tell if you've got a duplicated file. It can't have different versions of the same file. Versioning is gone, things like that. So I would search around if you're going to use a cloud system like Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive. Well, there's dozens of them. Any of them is not assume that it's protected. There are some that are protected, I should point out. There are some trust no one solutions out there, but maybe an easier way is to continue to use what you're using and encrypt before you upload it. If you're looking for a solution, a cloud-based solution that does encrypt in a way that they can't see your data, SpiderOak is the one I recommend, spideroak.com. It's a little clunky because of this. You have to use it. I haven't used it recently, but when I used it, it had to use a Java client because it's doing encryption on your local side before it uploads it to their cloud storage. So spideroak.com if you don't want to use a third-party tool to encrypt before you upload. Otherwise, Cryptomator or Veracrypt. Veracrypt's not quite as automated. There are automated tools that you don't even have to pay attention to. You set them up, and then as it's syncing with Dropbox, it automatically encrypts on the way up there. It's a great question, something that absolutely pay attention to. You got to be careful about that. Now, I don't do that because I don't put anything on Dropbox or OneDrive or Google Drive that I'm, want to keep private. It's work product, things like that, but it's nothing secret. I do use a network-attached storage system, though, from Synology for stuff I do want to keep secret. I have ways of things like my tax returns or my keys, my crypto keys, my PGP key, things like that. I do keep on encrypted storage, either through a company called Keybase, which is actually a great free solution. They have a encrypted Git client. Now, that's really geeky, but if you want to try that out, and you know what Git is, that's what I use for things like my tax returns, keybase.io. And then my Synology NAS I use for most of my personal document stuff, and that's encrypted in transit, and it's encrypted on the NAS, and I'm not storing it on anybody's cloud. I have my own private cloud, basically. Hey, great question. I'm glad you called, Jose. Thank you. I guess I've used up all the calls. No more calls, huh, Kim? All right. Kim wants to go watch the Oscars. The red carpet has already started, right? So you can get out of here. I told you to go at 1. Yeah. They've already, poor Kim's sitting in the dark. What, did they turn off the lights too?
They did.
But they all left for the Oscars too?
Yep.
Do you have any predictions? Best Picture?
I saw a lot of them. I did not see Roma yet. And I didn't see Vice, but I think I've seen everything.
We made a point of going to the movie theater because we couldn't see Vice. Everything else I could see on my Apple TV, but the Vice we couldn't.
Didn't you get all those discs?
The SAG discs,
Yeah. Or the login?
Okay, so I'm a member of the Screen Actors Guild /AFTRA, the American Federation of Radio and Television Artists, because I'm a radio artist. And if you're a member, often they send you either they used to send DVDs or now they do it digitally, right?
Right, you can log in and watch them.
But you got to be in good standing.
And you haven't paid your dues.
No, I did. I paid them. I did. I paid my dues, but I always forget. And you have to pay them up before September 29th, I think, or something like that. I always forget, and I'm paid up, but not in time. That's okay, because Lisa and I, my wife and I, love to know we've seen all the Best Picture nominees, and we make an effort. We've done that for the last few years. It's really been fun. And nowadays, thanks to Apple TV, you can, or Google, you can rent or buy almost all these movies. The only one we couldn't was Vice, so we found a rundown second-run movie theater that was still showing it because it's left the theaters in most places. It was only $3.50 each to see it. $3.50.
Really? Where's this movie theater?
It's the 3rd Street Theater up in Santa Rosa. It's cheap.
Cool.
It's also not as nice as my living room, but it's, there's the only place we could see it. So we saw Vice last night. Now we've seen them all.
It probably doesn't have the reclining chairs this one has either.
No. But I do have to say, I think Roma will win. I have a strong feeling that Roma will win. And if it does, just make a note of this. Think in the back of your mind, if they do go up on stage and accept that Best Picture Academy Award, that this will be a landmark.
Because of the Netflix?
Because it was paid for by Netflix and was available only on Netflix. They had to show it in a few theaters just to get the Oscars to consider them.
Right.
But this will be, I think, a complete sea change. Because if it wins a Best Picture Oscar, now they have to think about streaming. And Amazon, they've been nominated. They've won before. But it was always in theaters, right? Mm-hmm. I think you're going to see a move to streaming. I really do. It's the way the world's going. Thank you, Kim Schaffer. You're the greatest. Have a great Oscar night.
I will.
Thank you to Damien, Big Pee-wee. Go home and watch the red carpet. I know Big Pee-wee's big into the fashions on the red carpet. I am Leo Laporte. No, I'm just teasing you. I am Leo Laporte. You'll probably be listening to the best songs, right? Yeah, because he's our musical director. I hope you have a wonderful Geek Week, and I do thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget, everything we talk about on the show is right up there on the website, techguylabs.com. It's free, no sign-up, so all the answers to your questions, even audio and video of the show after the fact. techguylabs.com. Have a great Geek Week. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.